sober and in pretty good health. So, yeah, that was kind of a shock to the wrestling community. And if you want to show some support to his wife opened up a store or took over his store at prowrestlingtees.com, and they've got a New Jack tribute shirt up. So that's a good way to give a shout out to New Jack if he was your cup of tea.
Yeah, R.I.P. New Jack. I did enjoy his stuff, especially as a young teen and watching ECW, and you never knew what the crazy bastard was going to do. I also thought it was a work for a little bit, unfortunately, because New Jack's that type of guy. And if you didn't also watch the Paul Heyman promo or his, I don't want to call it a promo, but I having a brain fart, eulogy type segment to him that he did on WWE, it was pretty heartfelt. You could feel the real Paulie speaking there.
Yeah, that was on Talking Smack, and I got a chance to look at that, and I'd say Paulie would be the guy to do it, and you actually get to see some real emotion come out of Paul Heyman there.
Right, so I was surprised on that. Did you watch the Dark Side of the Ring with Nick Gage?
I did, indeed. And, man.
Didn't change your opinions any?
No. The guy's a fucking lunatic, and so he has two talents, I guess. A very high pain tolerance, and then people like him. So I guess charisma, if you want to say. But it's not like he cuts an awesome promo or he has a lot of psychology. It's just do as much crazy shit as you can and as stupidly as you can. Rip open your side and cut an artery in the middle of nowhere where no ambulance can get to you and die on the way to the hospital and then come back for more.
Yeah, that was about his story. Then go to jail for 10 years, come back, and somehow still stayed a urban legend type thing, I guess. It's almost what it was. Like the story of him, it was like the Bill Brasky story on Saturday Night Live. The people that saw and heard of Nick Gage before he went to jail told such tall tales of him that the people who never saw him wrestle were like, I'm a fan. How can you not be a fan of these stories? You know, Bill Brasky's a son of a bitch. You know, Nick Gage, I once saw him swallow a light tube and cut his own finger off.
He stuck a plug up his ass and a light tube down his throat, and I swear the sumbitch lit up like a Christmas tree.
He's 10 foot tall if he was an inch.
No, so he just had Nick Gage, the fucking idiot, robbed a bank in full view of the camera, looked right at the camera, went to jail for a while, and he just had this leech that was doing some sort of extreme wrestling promotion, and he knew Nick Gage drew. So no matter what kind of drugs he was on, no matter how fucked up he was, no matter how much he tried to kill David Arquette, you know, he just keep bringing him back. Keep bringing him back, and eventually, I guess he got his shit together. I don't know.
Somewhat, at least. And then he's the leader of his MDK gang, the Murder, Death, Kill.
Yeah.
That's
as
worth.
a 38 and 39-year-old man, I really want to be seen at the mall wearing that shirt.
Anyways, what else we got? New news.
Yeah, and so I watched that biography, that Dark Side of the Ring, but I heard yesterday that the A&E Shawn Michaels biography also came out. I have not got a chance to watch that, but that's definitely going to be on my list for tomorrow night.
Yes, the A&E biography of Shawn Michaels. I haven't seen it either, and I haven't heard anything about it, but how could it be bad?
Right, and it came out, Jim Cornette fucking hates Shawn Michaels. He thinks he's the biggest piece of shit in the world, and old Corny watched this, and he's like, I was so mad at this episode. It made me come out of it thinking, man, I wish I didn't hate Shawn Michaels so much back in the day. He turned out to be a pretty nice guy. So if it turned Corny's opinion on somebody, that's some shit.
Yeah.
That's some cinematic magic.
Again, how could it be bad? It's the story of Shawn Michaels. I think it's a win for everybody.
Yeah, but getting off that, let's get into some AEW news here, Brian.
Oh.
There's a little tension going on between the Elite, that's the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, a little tension between them and Cody Rhodes on the executive VP front there.
Oh.
rumor had it that Cody Rhodes was not talking to those three and vice versa. They were so pissed off at each other. They had so much disagreements. But as the week progressed, a little more news came out. They talk because they kind of have to. They're sort of partly in charge of a multi-million-dollar wrestling company.
Yeah.
But I guess they're just having disagreements left and right on how the show should be booked, how the show should be ran, who to sign, and whatever. But ultimately, it comes down to Tony Khan. And since the Khan man's a fan of Orange Julius there in the jean jacket, I'm pretty sure the Young Bucks are going to get their way.
Oh, so the Young Bucks are on Team Orange Cassidy? Is this the fight?
I'm assuming so.
This fight is about Orange Cassidy?
No, not in particular.
Oh.
I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
So the Young Bucks got their goofy-ass indie style of wrestling. Cody Rhodes, a little more polished, a little more trained, a little more classic style with WWE. I'm assuming Cody Rhodes wants to make wrestling a little more realistic, a little more old school, put a little more work into the booking with heels and baby faces and whatnot. I'm assuming based on his personality and previous training. And I'm sure the Young Bucks are just like, super kick party, bro.
Well, there you go. I'm surprised to hear that there is. I guess I'm sorry. I'm not surprised to hear there's tension in the ranks. That was only just a thing that was bound to happen.
Yeah, and then over in WWE, so we're gonna review Backlash, and I'm assuming everybody knows about this because it was the talk of the wrestling internet community all week long. Was the fucking zombies that made an appearance in Backlash? Well, a fan tweeted at Batista. Apparently, he's mad at Batista about it, and tweeted him saying, "Hey Dave, I love you, but this zombie shit on WWE Backlash show was insulting." Well, Dave took offense to that, and he actually took time out of his day and replied and said, "WTF you telling me? You think I booked a bunch of fucking zombies? I'm on a damn plane. Shouldn't you be tweeting Vince?" So
I mean, Dave's not wrong. Mr. No. Batista is not wrong at all. Why would you? Because his movie was the intertwined promo of the evening.
Right. Just because Batista is associated with WWE and it was his movie, I'm sure he was all about getting the promotion there, having millions of people watching his a kind of a lit up sign pointing right to his movie there.
Right.
But yeah, he didn't book the zombies, and he didn't necessarily say it was a great idea to have zombies involved in a match.
No, it was the drizzling shits. But on that same note, been reported that The Miz had tore his ACL in that match.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. We will get to the details of that when we get to Backlash. I have speculation on when and how that happened.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, we will dig into that a little bit later on. So, Dave Batista, not responsible for the zombies. I don't know, though, because he kind of did say during the broadcast that he had some friends coming. So, I don't know. I think Dave sent them.
Dave sent the zombies. Yeah. Dave sent the zombies. He can speak zombie.
A little weirdness, a little uncertainty going on in the AEW world there. In January of 2022, AEW Dynamite will be moving over to TBS. Still a Turner company, but I think TBS is on a little bit of a lower bar than TNT. Am I right?
I think maybe a little bit. I think there's more original. I don't know. I was going to say there's maybe more original programming on TNT, but it's about a wash, really. If I think about it, just another cable channel. I mean, they put SmackDown on the Sci-Fi Network for a couple years, so.
True. I don't personally think it's going to affect AEW that much. The TNT kind of went well with the Dynamite, but I don't think their fans will have any trouble
No.
changing one channel,
Now,
staying in the same family.
awesome friend of the show, Mr. Andrew, a friend of the show, he commented and sent me a text with this news article as well. And then he stated, I wonder if AEW is working on their TBS championship belt.
Ooh, good point, Andrew. So they're going to have to scrap that TNT.
Yes,
I'm assuming so.
you can have the TNT because I don't think they're going to have any programming on TNT, right? There's another show coming, but I don't think it's on TNT.
No, AEW Rampage, which is promising high octane wrestling, that debuts on Friday, August 13th on TNT.
Oh.
But come January 22, that also will be moving to TBS.
Okay. Well, I was out. I was like, well, maybe that'll stay on that show, and they'll have the TBS championship on that show. Would have made sense. But if it's moving to TBS as well, yeah, they're going to have the TBS championship. The network title's going to change. And knowing AEW, they won't have it change. It'll just change. Like just Darby Allin or whoever's the champion at the time, if it's still Miro, will just go, you're the TBS champion now. They won't even have like a big ceremony or nothing. It'll just be, it'll just come out. Like when they debuted the new belt, right? And they never even showed it on TV.
Yeah, they'll just switch the belt out for this one or put a piece of duct tape over where it says TNT and now it says TBS. But yeah, it'll probably be a quiet switch, I'm assuming, because the TBS championship just, I don't know, sounds goofy.
Superstation champion. The TBS is the Superstation.
God.
They could call it the Turner title.
There you go. You could do that. Old Ted Turner would probably be jerking off knowing his name's on a wrestling belt because he loves being in the wrestling business. WWE released a shit ton of people from NXT, a bunch of names I never heard of, so I didn't even bother writing them down. But the big release in WWE is they finally cut ties with the Velveteen Dream. And there's a lot of controversy surrounding him last year about a lot of accusations about DMing young boys on Instagram and sending nudes and whatnot. I assume nothing was proven because his ass isn't in jail yet. But yeah, WWE finally decided you're kaput, you're done. Go pursue your future endeavors there, Velveteen Dream. And I'm assuming that was a good decision because Velveteen hasn't been on TV since late December of 2020, and nobody's really seemed to notice.
I noticed. I thought about him. I thought that he was I think he's a decent talent. He's very charismatic. He can cut a promo. He had the charisma, and he's a great athlete. So I think this will be a loss to the the WWE NXT family, but we'll see. I mean, if he's that good, he'll go shine somewhere else and maybe come back. Maybe he's got to clean up his personal life. I don't know what's separating it, but clearly the WWE is not seeing the value in him anymore. So I'm sure he's going to pop around the independent scene. Maybe AEW. Everybody instantly jumps on that. I get so sick of hearing about it. You'll go to AEW. Well, they have a budget too and can only afford to pay so many people before the place implodes on itself.
I'm assuming this is all revolving around his controversial personal life and accusations. And he's going to have to cool down. This isn't on the Joey Ryan level of heat, but he's going to have to lay low, let things cool down, because I think at this point, especially with WWE just letting him go and his name being hot in the news again, nobody's going to touch him.
Yeah, as long as he keeps being a dirty boy, a dirty little bad boy, he's not going to get much done in the public eye. So yeah, hopefully he's got a few dollar bills stacked up in the house, and he can hang out and lay low for a bit and come back when the coast is clear and he stops being a bad boy.
Yeah, clean yourself up, Velveteen, and you're still young, and there's still potential there.
Correct.
And then finally, my final news is Dynamite dropped. AEW's Dynamite dropped again on Wednesday night. This time they dropped down to 821,000 viewers. Last week, as a reminder, they had 936. So they dropped 115,000 viewers in 1 week. One of those viewers is right here because I took WWE Backlash as an excuse not to watch AEW. Make that two with Mr. Rompo over there.
Make that two. I missed AEW this week. I'll probably still catch up with it on the old DVR, but have not seen it yet as of we are recording this on Thursday night. So I'll watch it, get to it this weekend or something. But, yeah, didn't watch it either. But we will talk Backlash here in just a little bit.
Yeah, so the excuses are there was something on ESPN, baseball or basketball or something. I don't know. I really don't pay attention to that shit. So that's the excuse of why they dropped. But I think it's the booking that's making it drop.
Well, we spoke about it last week before. We kind of talk about it fairly often, is that they go hard with these big shows that aren't pay-per-views that probably should be pay-per-views. And you do draw in a lot of people. You get Tyson. You have a 2 double ring cage blood and guts death match thing. With all that being said, people expect a certain level, so you can't go up and down, peaks and valleys, in your booking and in your show. And with that booking of your show, that way you're going to see that in your viewership. People are going to turn it on and go, what was this? What I watched last week? What I watched 2 weeks ago? I'm not going to, you're trying to hook some people in. They're going to get bored. They're going to go, oh, great show, terrible show, terrible show, terrible show. Oh, my God, an amazing themed show. So you can't just keep waiting for the theme shows as a fan.
Right. Some consistency would definitely help. And I just personally think it's a bad idea to have a show like Blood and Guts, a huge show that's going to draw so many people in and so many people are excited to see it, to put that shit on for free when not every pay-per-view has to be $50. WWE did cheaper pay-per-views back in the day for in your house and whatnot. Make Blood and Guts a $25 pay-per-view or a $20 pay-per-view. You can get by with that.
Yeah, you'll survive. And then you're going to draw people in to watch that, watch your weekly show to see what's going to happen on these $20 pay-per-views. I think it's just a better business model, but I'm not the owner and operator. Nobody asked my opinion, but that's the way I agree with you. That's the way I would do it.
Yeah, I didn't come over from Pakistan at the age of 16 and sell bumpers and become a billionaire. So I don't know. Maybe they got the better business sense.
Yeah.
But
any other news?
That's a wrap on the news on my end there, Brian.
That is a wrap. Play the music, hit the bumper, and we are out of the news. Once again, this is the KayFabe Smark podcast. Make sure you guys are tuning in and checking us out every Thursday on YouTube, and like and subscribe and share on all of the podcast platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Google, etc., and so on. And join us on all social media platforms, the KayFabe Smark. Now it's time for a little thing we like to call overrated, underrated.
Overrated, underrated.
I'm going to use that as a sample and make that the drop now. All right, this one. Overrated, underrated, big men. So we're just going to go with all big guys here.
Good choice.
Overrated. First one we'll start out with. There's a few gimmies in here. Overrated, underrated, Andre the Giant.
Ooh. All right. So I this is an age one for me because I'm going to say he's overrated because I'm 39. I was born in 1982. First time I remember seeing Andre is WrestleMania 3, watching the event. Although it was 10 minutes down the road from my house, watched it on pay-per-view. Hogan and Andre. Boy, Andre was in rough shape even back then in 1987. But yeah, in my era, he was overrated. But according to everyone else, in the 70s, Andre was just the man, and he was super athletic, and he could move, and he could bump. And so I don't know. I think maybe he just held on too long, and he went from underrated to overrated.
There we go. Overrated, underrated. Sid Vicious, Psycho Sid, Sid Justice, Sid. Whoever you want to call him by.
Um, I I think Sid is right where he needs to be, Brian. He's not overrated. He's not underrated. Um, anyone uh, besides kids and dumb marks, everyone knows he sucks. The only reason he sold anything was because of how big he was and his body, but he couldn't work and he was an asshole and he blew off shows to play softball and
He stabbed
so
Arn Anderson with a pair of scissors. Don't forget that.
right. So he stunk, but everybody knows he stunk. So there we go. We just leave that right where it lays.
Overrated, underrated. Diesel, Big Daddy Cool, Kevin Nash, Oz, however you'd like to remember him as.
All right. So Kevin Nash, definitely overrated. It's a running joke with everybody that he only has 5 moves, and that includes a hair flip. Was it 5 moves, Brian?
Yeah, Jim Cornette stated in a shoot interview that Kevin Nash only had 3 moves: the power bomb and elbow and something else. And he's like, "You forgot the knee in the corner and the hair flip." Kevin Nash even made the joke saying that he added to his 5 moves.
So, yeah, Kevin can talk, and he's charismatic as all hell, but he the necessary eyes to be on him to make him what he was wouldn't have happened without WWE and Shawn Michaels. Without Shawn Michaels poking at the Steiners to get a hold of him while Oz was still under contract, or I'm sorry, Vinny Vegas was still under contract with WCW. Shawn Michaels was poking and prodding the Steiners for a contact. So if it wasn't for Shawn Michaels, he would have just retired as Vinny Vegas or something similar.
Yeah.
So he's not self-made in my opinion, and I think all the praise people give him is due to Shawn Michaels. So I say overrated.
There you go. Overrated, underrated. Now, this one is before our time, but we've seen enough. But overrated, underrated, Bruiser Brody. He's gonna have to base this off of stories and the legend that is, right?
Right, and there is a huge legend surrounding Bruiser Brody, and I'm gonna say that he's underrated because from everything I've heard and everything I've studied from Bruiser Brody, he was that character, that insane character of a man, but he was also smart and he had plans to do his own promotion and he was going to take things bigger and the potential was all there. So lots of people give him praise, but I don't think he receives quite enough praise of what he could have achieved.
Last one, overrated, underrated, the big men, Yokozuna.
Yokozuna is definitely underrated. So at my heaviest, Brian, I was 360 pounds. Yokozuna, when he was active in WWE with a heavy schedule, was right around 600 pounds, according to Jim Cornette, according to Bruce Pritchard. He was over 600 pounds, and he was doing shit that I couldn't even dream of at 360. So, he's another one with the potential. Man, his eating got out of control, eating turkey tails by the dozen, deep fried turkey assholes, in case nobody knows what a turkey tail is, and dipping them in mayonnaise. And he would just eat constantly, got over 800 pounds. So his addiction killed him, stunted his career, but there's no way you can give Yokozuna enough praise for what he could achieve at the size he was.
And there we go. That's overrated, underrated, the big men. And now we're going to move on and talk about the Backlash to WrestleMania.
Can we throw a bonus one in there, Brian? I'm going to call an audible.
Sure.
I'm going to throw one at you.
Oh, uh-oh. I'm scared.
All right. All right, Brian Rampa. It's going to be a lob. It's going to be pretty easy to catch. But overrated, underrated, Big Men Edition, Great Khali.
He was just...
Oh, wait, hold on. WWE Hall of Famer, Great Khali.
Yeah, Great Khali was very overrated, as he was just a freak show. Unfortunately, that's all he was good for.
But he's in the Hall of Fame, Brian.
Well, you have to keep international relations open and clear.
Correct. As the great Jim Cornette said, a lot of people in India watch YouTube.
Yes. So you want to make sure that you're covered there. Nobody WWE's never seen a guy like him before, but you could never. He couldn't do anything in the ring. He was barely entertaining at that.
My dream match, Big Man Edition, Great Khali versus Giant Gonzalez
versus the Yeti.
Yes, the Yeti.
Special
guest referee. I can't even think.
I would just go Harvey Whippleman because you're so small. It would just offset everything
there you go.
And make the big men look just more ginormous.
That would be beautiful. But all right, toss my audible out. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of this matter. Let's get to WWE WrestleMania Backlash.
Dun, dun, dun. All right, well, this was a pay-per-view, and it happened, and that's where I'll leave. No, and that's it. There's our review.
That's all I got to say about that.
That's all I got to say about that. Overall, lackluster, but let's talk about it match by match. Eric Todd, did you watch the opening preview match, the pre-show match, Sheamus and Ricochet?
I did not, and even if I knew about it, I feel I would have skipped it.
I did because I turned it on knowing that the show was getting ready to start, and lo and behold, this match was happening. It was just a Sheamus Ricochet match in a pre-show. Poor Sheamus, but poor Ricochet. We want to talk about potential, and just nobody can see what he's about right there in front of him. So him and Sheamus opening this up with the U.S. Championship. Sheamus beats him. He's the champion. Sheamus beats him. And Ricochet just no-sells the finish, gets up, while Sheamus is putting on his hat and his jacket. He's back to wearing that, like, pork pie hat and his, like, weird, like, wool jacket. And he puts it on with just his panties on, and he's standing in the ring with his hat and jacket and in his wrestling panties, and he looks silly as hell. Ricochet no-sells it, no-sells the finish, stands up, and now has the energy to beat up Sheamus. And then he beats up Sheamus and then steals his hat and coat and dances around like James Brown, and Sheamus gets mad and runs away. So it's like you couldn't beat him in the match or beat him up in the match. You job to him. It finishes. You sell the finish, and then you stand up, and then you're not injured anymore. You can steal his hat and coat and wrestle around and dance like James Brown and run away and laugh.
So
it was just goofy.
Did Sheamus finish him off with a finisher?
Yeah, whatever he called it, the white noise or whatever he finished him.
Right.
He just finished him off. He lays there, sells it, and then stands up. I mean, it was just the fact that they had him do that at the end. You're like, wow. Way to no-sell his finish, but whatever. I
was just going to speculate. Do you think he went into business for himself, or do you think that's just what they...
I think that's just what they wanted to keep it going, their little feud.
Their little afterbirth. Well, yeah, that sounds like a stinker, and I'm glad I didn't watch it.
Yeah, it was just goofy. So anyways, we move on, and we open up the show, right, with Rhea Ripley, Asuka, and Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, before that, though, I just want to say, the WWE production value, as far as like openings and commercials and shit like that, it's unmatched. Usually I fast forward through all that. I was just like, whatever, let it play this time. And the whole thing with Batista narrating and all the clips coming together and then tying it in with Batista's new movie, Army of the Dead. Um, this intro was long, but I was actually interested the entire time, and it was super high quality and pretty dope, if you ask me.
WWE has a good way of doing that and drawing you in with vignettes, even if they work them into a commercial thing and you don't realize at the end of it you're being sold a pitch to watch a new movie. It's just they can just do it well. They know how to put that shit together.
Yeah, so that got me pumped to watch the show, and I was excited at the beginning, and then we saw the first match here: Charlotte Flair versus Asuka versus the women's champion, Raw Women's Champion Rhea Ripley, in a triple threat. And this could have been booked much, much better without Asuka. No offense to Asuka, fantastic performer, not much of a talker, but I think everybody would have been a lot more into it if this was just a rematch of Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, that Asuka seemed like she was kind of shoehorned right in the middle of this thing. That this could have been the build up for that, but maybe it's just a way to tease it out to the next the next, if you want to call them real pay-per-views, the next big event, maybe Money in the Bank, or they moved Hell in the Cell up to June now. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did see that.
So we'll see what they're going to do with that. But did you notice Charlotte Flair's ring attire and what she was going with there?
I did notice it was different. I didn't really pay attention. Was she going for the Queen of Hearts or something?
No, maybe, what I got from it was the Cruella de Vil. She had that Cruella de Vil jacket on. There's that new movie coming out about Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians, and then her shorts and her top were the black and white spot, or was the white with the black spots, like a Dalmatian, it looked like to me. So to me, it looked like she was going for that Cruella de Vil, wicked, evil woman type look, and I don't know, I thought I had a cool look to her, something different. I like that she changes up her gear. She gets that from her dad, but I'm thinking she was going with that Cruella de Vil look.
Yeah, well, like stealing a heel idea from a Disney movie, pretty original there. But I did like her attire. I thought it was a cool change from the Charlotte Flair attire we're used to. I thought that was pretty cool. But as for the match, this thing just followed our standard triple threat rules that you and I always dig on. Just always somebody's taking turns disappearing so that we can have multiple one-on-one bouts throughout the match. And it's just so predictable because Charlotte doesn't waste any time. I'm talking within 1 minute of this match starting. Charlotte Flair gets booty bumped out of the ring. That way we can get our first matchup of this match, Asuka and Ripley going at it for a little while.
Those in and out switches always kill me because these people can do so much. You see them go into other matches, and then they get a little hip check out to the outside of the ring, and then they're laying down and they're lost in the sauce for 5 minutes or what feels like 5 minutes, and it's just funny, the funny storytelling to me when it works like that. I don't care for that either. It just seems doesn't make sense.
And I understand it's kind of necessary if you're insisting on having a triple threat match, but just in this match in particular, it was so blatant. It was so in your face. So like Asuka and Ripley go at it for a little while, and just as clear as day, Charlotte pulls Asuka out of the ring. And just from pulling her out of the ring, Asuka's hurt or tired or whatever for a while, and now she's just going to stay outside the ring. That way we get our Rhea Ripley Charlotte portion of the match. And then like clockwork, it was just like 1, 2, 3. Rhea Ripley is outside of the ring, and now we get Charlotte Flair and Asuka. So it was so predictable and so timed out and just so blatant, and it irritated me.
It would almost be better if they had a match, instead of calling this a triple threat match, where one person is always like eliminated to stay on the outside of the ring. So there's a countdown. 3, 2, every 3 minutes, like that person comes in and one of the other two goes out. Maybe there's like a quick coin flip, or there's a random a video pops up on the screen. Boop. Asuka has to sit, randomly chosen, and then you bop out. Then these two get 3 minutes, and if anybody wins in that, match is over. It just keeps rotating though. Somebody gets in, somebody gets out, somebody gets in, somebody gets out. Because when it's given to you this way, it makes you feel like you're dumb. Like, don't look over here. The magic trick's happening on this side. Like, we're just gonna lay here and pretend like we're hurt for 3.5 minutes.
Right. And if any other match, if you got hurt that easily, the match would be over damn near instantaneously. If you could just get booty bumped out of the ring and be out of commission for 5 minutes, yeah, that means you're pretty SAWFT soft.
Or even just set it up where it's just gimmicked out where the person is just working it, where they're like, I'm going to go stand over here. I'm not getting in this match yet. You guys fight, and they're like, I'm going to stay fresh, and they just keep interfering. That would make sense too, but just having that person lay there drives me banana.
Yeah, you can either, if you're going to make it blatant, write it in somehow. Either have your heel be a dickhead and be like, oh, I'm not getting in the middle of that. I'm resting over here. Or make it part of the match. Call it a Russian roulette match, if you will. I don't know. But, yeah, Asuka ends up getting a Hulk up, and she goes bananas on these two. At certain points in this match, we actually get all three competitors at once. And then just WWE happens. Charlotte Flair has to get her spot in. So we got Rhea and Asuka, and they've been fighting all match, but now they're going to go ahead and just come together because Charlotte Flair's climbing up to the top, and it's a beautiful moonsault, Brian. It's great looking, but it's just contrived, unnecessary, and stupid. And also, just for shits and gigs there, Charlotte doesn't connect. Well, not only with me as a fan, but she doesn't connect with Asuka or Rhea Ripley on this moonsault. She just pretty much completely whiffs them and lands on the floor. And that's an easy way to get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to connect with those moonsaults. Otherwise, you're just throwing your body around and you're trying to get hurt for nothing. Having these moves that don't lead to anything, or having not necessarily the moves, but also having now people team up to make alliances in the middle of a match, it doesn't make sense in this because there's no elimination. So if it was what they would call like ECW used to do, the three-way dances where people would get eliminated, right? So if you're in the match and if Asuka got pinned and then boom, Asuka's out, now it finishes out the match. But that wasn't the way it was. This was first one to a pin wins. So forming an alliance with somebody does you no good.
No, and as far as the moonsault spot, I'm gonna choose to put the blame on Asuka and Rhea Ripley in this one, just because what can Charlotte do besides backflip? She shouldn't have did it, but all she can do is backflip off of the turnbuckle. It's up to them to sell it, to connect,
to be there.
If you don't want a 150-pound girl flying from 10 feet in the air and landing on you and actually making it look real, don't do the shit. It's the golden rule. If you can't do it right, don't do it.
And they did it.
They did it. We get a contrived double superplex spot in this one where just looking at it, shaking my head the entire time because it's just blatantly obvious they're all working together. And you'll see the difference between a good women's match and a bad women's match later on when we see Bayley and Bianca and you compare that to this. But Charlotte healing it up. She gets her Hulk up and beats up both Rhea and Asuka and tries to pin both opponents at the same time. And it's like, I see what you did there, Charlotte. You're trying to be a bad guy.
Trying to be a bad guy, trying to do a Roman Reigns and stack your losers.
Now, this is where... So this thing was loosely put together, is pretty much held together with dental floss because it's just shit from beginning to end on my end. But this was the nail in the coffin right here. We got Charlotte Flair on the apron. We got Rhea Ripley and Asuka in the ring. Asuka rushes Charlotte while she's on the apron. Charlotte gives her a boot to the face, and that bounces Asuka into Rhea Ripley, so that she can do the riptide and pin. Now, logically thinking, Charlotte was on the ring apron. She kicked Asuka in the face, and it was a good 10 seconds to get that riptide and that pin in. How was Charlotte Flair not able to get into the ring and break that pin up? She did an offensive move. Asuka didn't hit her. She kicked Asuka in the face. Did you catch that?
I did, but like it didn't click like that until you kind of like lay it out and you go, "Oh yeah, that was all bass backwards."
Right. You kick her in the face, but you can't get in there and break up the pin. The commentators try to cover it up by saying by kicking Asuka in the face, Charlotte Flair ended up on the floor, but it was all off camera. So you're forced to put it together in your head before they try to do it for you, and it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well.
And Rhea Ripley retains the championship, and for some reason, now I get it. Now that you brought up Cruella DeVille, Rhea Ripley was barking at Charlotte Flair like a dog.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that was a Cruella DeVille look, and I think that she's going and plugging the new movie. Maybe they paid her to. Maybe it was a commercial. It was a little plug-ola.
You just got tie-ins everywhere. We're gonna shoot backstage now because we got Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler having a little conversation with Dominic Mysterio, and they end up roughing him up a little bit, throwing him into the corner and dropping a couch on him. Why there was a couch that was wrapped in plastic or whatever at the Thunderdome.
Why wouldn't there be?
I don't know.
There's always a prop couch lying where you need it.
Yeah, so we drop a couch on Dominic here, and lo and behold, Dominic can't compete in tonight's match. Looks like it's going to have to be Rey Mysterio versus the Dirty Dogs.
The Dirty Dogs, and this is where I thought we were going to see a Dominic Mysterio turn. I thought we were going to come out and get that old school, I've been beat up by the bad guys, and finally when he makes his appearance, boom, he flips, and he's going to pop Dad in the head. Spoiler alert, it doesn't happen. I thought it'd be a great storyline.
Right. That definitely would have worked out better than the way this match actually went. But we got our champs, the Dirty Dogs, Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode, presumably taking on Rey Mysterio in a solo effort here since Dominic's out of commission. And Rey Mysterio, he's been in the business a long time. He knows how to make the best out of whatever he's given. He can make lemonade out of lemons, I guess, I suppose. So Rey Mysterio comes out in a house of fire, just attacking everybody left and right. And you just kind of look at it, and you know Rey Mysterio's history, and you're like, this little sumbitch might pull this off.
Yeah, this one was a hard to believe moment for me. Is this, this handicap match that Rey Mysterio put himself in? Because you're going, okay, Rey you can buy him as a singles wrestler. You go, okay, he's a foot and a half shorter than everybody. He's out, underweight by everybody comparatively. But just to take on two guys, now mind you, I know he's not taking on two at the same time, so they were still having to tag in and out, but still. This is where it gets a little long for me, where you're going, this is just not how this would roll. These guys are bigger and stronger and younger than Rey Mysterio. How is he going to hold on this long? And I thought they went a little long with this until we saw Dominic come out, but we'll talk about probably some more of that in-between stuff before we get into all that.
Yeah, they definitely drew it out longer than they had to. They worked with it a little bit because they had Ziggler and Bobby Roode following the same rules as the previous match with three opponents there, getting hurt, so to speak, and disappearing out of the ring. That way it was one-on-one matches for a while. Then, we got to get some heat on Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler here. So they are doing their standard tag team routine, taking turns working Rey over and working that injured knee. like crazy. And then, Brian, the fake crowd noise erupts like Mount St. Helen. And who is it? It's Dominic Mysterio. He comes in and he's begging for a tag from Daddy. He needs to get in here and clean house.
Hot tag. This is the hot tag that I thought we were going to witness. I thought it was going to be like Halloween Havoc 1996 or 97 all over again when Ric Flair got beat up by Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman and couldn't make it out to the ring, and then he turned on Sting, that son of a bitch. Dirty Ric Flair, and that's where I thought we were going to see Dominic turn dirty and turn on Pops, but it doesn't happen. And he gets in, and somehow after getting a couch dropped on him and laying backstage, he comes in and starts to do work.
Yeah, if you want to call it that. Dominic gets tagged in, and he is throwing. I'm not even exaggerating here. Dominic Mysterio, he's 24, 25, something like that. He's in his mid-20s. He's been training for a long time, and I'm sure with Ray as your dad, you kind of got connections for people to train you. Dominic proceeds to throw the worst punches I've seen dating back to that AEW incident where the Dork Order attacked everybody and they were just punching the mat. You know, Dominic has the worst punches. And I know that sounds like nitpicking, but how hard is it to throw a working punch? And you're a Mysterio, for crying out loud. I just think he's not a natural. I think if this guy's going to be talented at all, it's going to take a lot of work.
This is no knock on Dominic Mysterio, but Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode are seasoned veterans at this point. Been in the wrestling business for a while now. Robert Roode been up and down the road. He could probably take a 50% punch from Dominic. You don't even have to make it a working punch. Just throw a punch, but don't try to put your fist through the back of my head, kid. I'll take care of the rest.
Right. That just put a bad taste in my mouth immediately right when Dominic gets in. And finally, Rude and Ziggler do put a beating on Dominic again for a while before Dominic hits a super kick on Dolph Ziggler here. And then that's when Rey Mysterio comes back, and he gets his comeback for a while. We get a 619 on Bobby Roode, sliding to the outside, sunset flip on Dolph Ziggler right into the barricade. And then our match is wrapping up here. We're going to tag Dominic in, and his punches are absolute shit. But his frog splash, his 5-star frog splash, that was pretty clean. That looked pretty good.
Yeah, he can move. I think he's just being pushed and used too early in his career. He's kind of riding the coattails of Daddy's name, and I don't know how well that's going to go over and last in the long term. But only time will tell if he'll ever be taken seriously as a real wrestler.
Yeah, and WWE's rolling the dice on him. They Dominic hits his frog splash, gets the pin, 1, 2, 3. So he basically did about 3 moves this entire match, gets the pin and the credit for the win. We get a speech from the Mysterios. They are the first father-son duo to be tag team champions.
Well, it's an interesting one to be in the record books for. You got that going for you. The first ones, you put the little asterisk next to your name. He gets to carry around the title straps for a little bit as a young kid. I mean, I wish him nothing but the best. I'm more jealous a little bit than I am mad at him. You know, my dad wasn't a wrestler and didn't take me to work like that and get to be on TV and wrestle when I was in my 20s. But, you know, I don't buy him as a wrestler yet. I buy him as a special guest. I buy him as a celebrity type thing, if you will. I don't know. I don't want to compare him to David Arquette, but, you know, since he was already on the tip of my tongue from earlier in the evening, that's kind of the way I feel about it. Just a joke plugged into a spot.
Yeah, which just is kind of weird because at his age, he's had so many years of training. You know, he didn't wait till he was 18 to start practicing wrestling. So it's if he doesn't have any polish on this turd by now, it's going to be a long road. But yeah, he doesn't need to be in a WWE main show pay-per-view at this point. He should be down in NXT, working with guys on his level and just work up from there. And if you make it, you make it. I don't think you should automatically get credit just because you're sharing your dad's last name.
Agreed. One guy pulled it off, Randall Keith Orton. He got the big shot to jump right into the game because he was Randy Orton. He was Bob Orton's son. And he comes in, I'm Randy Orton. And they said, cool, sign here. You're on the show, kid. And we're going to partner you with Triple H. You're going to start Evolution and off to the races for the rest of your career, for the rest of your life. But, he also proved himself.
Yeah, they Randy Orton, they started him in OVW, and he had to work with Jim Cornette. And everyone down there said Randy was just a natural. He had it from the beginning, but he's just an asshole. But he's still an asshole, and it worked out well for him. But the key ingredient there is he had natural talent.
Yeah, Dominic's going to have to really fight for his, so we shall see. But father-son tag team, for whatever that's worth in WWE these days, the tag team champions. To me, it's probably just more annoying, is my guess, that you got to carry around that damn belt.
Right. And from there, from this father-son speech, we got a couple backstage segments here. We got Morrison talking to Miz, and they're figuring things out for this lumberjack match that they have coming up. Morrison decides he's going to go have a chat with the lumberjacks, goes into the lumberjacks locker room because, that's a thing now. And the locker room, Brian, is full of zombies.
And this is when I literally go, ugh, as I was watching this. And I was watching it live, my friend, because I had nothing to do on Sunday. So I could not pause, fast forward, or rewind because I was watching this on Peacock.
And Peacock sucks cock. So yeah, I refused to watch this on Sunday because I needed the fast forward option. But so yeah, I guess without getting right into the match immediately, I have no qualms with a tie-in with a zombie movie, but dress up your talent as zombies. We're doing a zombie theme for this match. We got Dickhead from NXT who's not doing anything. That skinny kid who used to be the lower ranked champion down in NXT. Dress him up as a zombie. But we just have a bunch of nobodies with no names besides Zombie Elvis, and they're gonna legit cosplay like real life zombies in this thing. And that's just a view of them from the locker room. This is going to be garbage just from the backstage segment.
They're still doing stuff at Thunderdome, meaning no live audience. Why didn't they take this cinematic? A thing about a movie.
They might as well at this point.
I'm just saying, I'm not a fan of them, but I wasn't a fan of this lumberjack nonsense either. So the zombies are undead, I'm supposed to believe. And they come out there and they're going to eat people, but they know not to climb in the ring, and they know to throw the other guy back in the ring when he comes out and be a lumberjack. They were explained the rules.
Right. We might as well jump right into this match. And the announcers explained the zombies by plugging Batista's movie, once again, Army of the Dead. But as this match starts and as this match progresses, the commentators are playing it up like cartoon characters. They're oh my God, why is he eating him? Or the zombies are doing this, and oh my God, the zombies are coming for the Miz. They explain that the zombies are there to plug the movie, but then they are commentating like the zombies are real. So we take it out of simulated fighting where you want to get into it with the previous matches of these people fighting each other for legitimate titles, and now we're just in a fantasy world right now. This is cinematic without being cinematic is the only way I can think of it.
Correct. The other thing that just bugs, this whole thing bugged me. I didn't like any of this. I didn't care for any of this match. It just drives me nuts that you had to you're trying to separate two worlds. It was like what they were doing with Alexa Bliss stuff and Randy Orton. that all of a sudden it was like you have to tell a story where magic is allowed to happen. So they would be, she was able to make lights fall and blacks ooze and Randy Orton would vomit. But and the commentators would go with it. And then the next match they were trying to make like it was ultra reality, and that Bobby Lashley is really like a real badass, right? So it's like, am I watching fiction, nonfiction, a cartoon? You got to pick a genre and stay in it. So I don't know if this I don't know if this is where this match belonged. They had to put it together. That's what bugs me about it. When they separate the universes so much, where they're like, oh, lumberjacks are zombies. What the fuck are we watching? What are we doing? They want to say blood and guts set the industry back 30 years.
Yeah, precisely. If you're so set on this cartoon bullshit cinematic stuff, make a separate show. And all goofy fantasy cartoon comic book wrestling that your I don't know, your younger kids, 8 to 10-year-olds can enjoy, I guess. But trying to Brian, how are we supposed to get into this cartoon world where we got zombies trying to eat the opponents? We can go from that world to a world where we got Cesaro,
right,
Claudio, fighting Roman Reigns and having real human conflict in that, and portraying it as a potential of strength, or a bout of strength and conflict and whatnot. So yeah, these matches don't belong on the same show. If you're insistent on doing them, give them their own sideshow genre.
And I'm such a wrestling mark that I would fall into the storyline of a zombie-themed match gimmick where it went on for weeks at an end, and they made it like The Walking Dead but with wrestling or something. I would probably watch it and enjoy it, but I would know what I'm watching. But you can't take me in and out of universes and be like, this is the pretend universe, this is the real one, this is the reality universe, this is the pretend universe. Like, just stick with something. Sorry, I've been complaining about this for too long. The match was only 7 minutes, and we've talked about it now for 3.5.
Yeah, well, I couldn't focus on the quote-unquote match between these two. I couldn't tell you one move The Miz and Damian Priest did, because all I can focus on is the zombies. The zombies are bloodthirsty. They want flesh. They want brains. But they obey the rules of a lumberjack and do not enter the ring. Although they're trying at every chance to pull the competitors out of the ring so they can consume them alive, they don't breach the border of the ring there.
Well, yeah, they're law-abiding citizens. Now, in this match, we had discussed earlier that it looked like The Miz hurt him, or The Miz has been reported to have hurt himself.
Yeah, getting past these two opponents who are supposed to hate each other, teaming up to fight zombies like the goddamn Walking Dead, and John Morrison getting dragged behind a barricade and presumably getting eaten alive by zombies. We have Damian Priest coming out on top, pinning The Miz, leaving The Miz lifeless, so to speak, in the ring, and all the zombies at this point. Now that the bell rung, Brian, they all get into the ring, and we're left to assume that they're eating The Miz alive. But my theory, Brian, because The Miz is alive and well, but he's got an injury and won't be wrestling for a while, I think those zombies just had a craving for an ACL tendon, and they were all gnawing on his knee, and they ate his ACL, goddammit.
They just chewed his ACL right off?
They did.
Son of a bitch, zombies.
They went for that knee, and they chewed his ACL right out of his kneecap.
But don't worry, you can catch The Miz on The Miz and Mrs. on USA, because he's not in the fake universe anymore. He's on his reality universe now, and he's going to go over there to his other show and live life with his wife and daughter.
Yeah, Miz is living in 3 different universes. So he's got a reality show TV universe. He's got a universe where he legitimately wants to fight Bad Bunny, the Puerto Rican rap star. And then now he got transformed transported through a wormhole, I'm assuming, into this zombie cartoon universe. So we're praying for you, Miz.
Yeah. Hopefully get your zombie ACL back. Anyways, that match sucked big weenie.
Yeah, so Damian Priest comes out on top. We're going to the back, and Jimmy and Jey Uso have been bickering back and forth this entire pay-per-view backstage. And I see that Jimmy Uso is doing his hair different now, so it's easier to tell them apart. Wasn't it before like one wore shoes and one didn't or something like that? I'm talking way back in the day when they first came in.
Yeah, then they did the gimmick when they kind of turned to this hood gimmick that one would go like sleeveless, like you'd do the sleeveless cut on his t-shirt, and the other one would have sleeves, or one would have a bandana in his pocket. I would notice little things that would be different between their outfits, and I think that was just for people. They had to be for the commentators looking at them going, you blink sideways, you're going to get these two confused.
Yeah, no doubt. So right now it's the hair to tell Jimmy and Jey Uso apart. And so Jay is riding Roman's coattails. That seemed to be the story for a while now. And Jimmy, he ain't nobody's bitch, Brian.
No,
and,
he ain't so much not somebody's bitch that he has his own t-shirt that says that now.
Oh yeah, he did have a t-shirt that said I'm nobody's bitch, or so to speak. So I guess the Uso brothers are beefing now, and there's a little conflict going on between them two.
This is so cringy to listen to them like fight and talk, and it's like watching Jenny Jones back in the 90s or Ricky Lake when they would have somebody on those talk shows and they were trying to be real hard and they weren't, and they were like, I'm from the streets, you don't know me. Like when Cartman from South Park was trying to be hard on that little talk show. It's like, it's just cringy. It doesn't feel like them when they're trying to be, this is me, Oos. I'm here for you. I ain't nobody's bitch, Oos.
On the contrary, I'm going to say that is closest to their real personality, because I like Samoan wrestlers. I think because I'm a big man myself, and you got your Umagas, so to speak, that were closer to my size, who could still twirl around like helicopters and do triple Lundi backflips off the top rope. So I follow Samoan wrestlers, and you watch interviews with Rikishi.
Oh, they were all hood.
Interviews with Yokozuna, the Usos. They all have like hood ass tones to their voice. They're all gangsta.
I can give them the hood. It's the trying to be so, it feels a little forced. There's a little too loud. The aggression is off. The hood thing is fine with me. If you want to have that hip hop urban hood dialect to your voice, but it's the being so, like, everything's loud. Everything's yelling. And to me, when everything is yelling, they convey no emotion. They don't know how to act their emotions. They just yell loudly to convey it. It's like, we're not deaf. We're watching you, so we can, everything's oos, come on, oos, this, ooh, It's like, there's no low tones to their promos. Everything.
And they're literally 2 feet apart.
Everything's chest slapping and how proud they are to be Samoan. Let's go, oos. Let's go. You're the head of the table. Everything's like, oh, God, slow down.
Yeah, it's a little intense, so to speak, we'll say. So, so I would say that Jimmy's a teepee and Jay's a wigwam, and together they're 2 tents. But moving on from that, the Uso brothers are beefing.
The Uso brothers are beefing.
And we're going to bring this into our second women's championship of the night. At least this one's just 2 competitors this time. We've got Bayley challenging Bianca Belair for the SmackDown women's championship. And
I don't think there was really a spot I was going to say I don't think there's really a spot to go wrong in this match, just from me seeing it on paper right in the very beginning.
No, as good as a heel as Bayley is, I just kind of miss babyface Bayley. I think I reminisced about babyface Bayley because I saw a clip on the internet when she was in Ireland or something, and the whole crowd was singing the song to her, and they substitute Bailey in there. "Won't you be my girl?" or something like that. Anyway, look that up. Bailey, "Won't you be my girl?" And I don't know. Babyface Bailey was cool. I'm kind of getting over heel Bailey.
Yeah, I think they're gonna bring it. They'll bring it back eventually, and I think this was a good way though for her to change her look and then revamp it when she does become babyface again, so she can revamp her look again. She was stuck in that side ponytail, like 10 scrunchies. Everything's gonna be loud and neon. She can now, when she ditched that, she cut her hair and changed everything to a more current type of look as it is in the female world with hairstyles and clothing, outfit choices, and things like that. So I think this will give her an option to be a baby face, but be updated and be a woman and not like she's a preteen, young teenage girl that's in the pro wrestling.
Definitely got JoJo Siwa vibes off of Babyface Bailey back in the day.
OG.
So yeah, I think that's a good idea. If she's more updated and modern now, and if you want to make her a babyface, she's got the tools where she's not going to be in the Disney universe anymore. So yeah, but as far as this match goes, we got actual holds, we've got reversals, we got Bailey being the heel that she is, using underhanded tactics, selling like a heel, and getting the people behind Bianca Belair here. None of their moves look over cooperated. Everything just seemed to gel perfectly. And and then there's one spot in here that made me wish there was fans in the building, because I think Bailey could have got intense heat for that spot where she dropped Bianca Belair onto the steel steps flat onto her stomach, because that just looked great and it looked like it hurt like a sumbitch.
I bet you it did hurt like a son of a bitch. And this being the fifth match, if you're counting the pre-show match on the card, so far is the winner of the evening. This one is the one that's shining, especially after coming out after the Lumberjack Zombie match. You could have put anybody in there with any match, and it was going to shine like a WrestleMania headliner.
Right. These two drew the lucky number to come in after that turd of a zombie match, and to actually be two talented performers in this thing. At this point they hit a home run. There were some sketchy bumps on this one. First, you got your steel step bump, which maybe Bianca knew how to take it. So we got our steel step bump. And then we got Bailey suplexing Bianca Belair on the outside of the ring onto the floor. Then Bailey goes for a tope, or whatever the hell you want to call it in WWE, dives through the middle ropes, and Bianca sidesteps it as planned. And Bailey hit that ground hard. That was a nice thud that came through that.
Yeah, that's those dives. I'm not positive. I would get into a ring at any point and wrestle and just figure it out, right? I could get in there. Now, am I going to get in there and be something that people are going to want to write home about? No. But I'll get in there and have fun. I would go do an independent show if somebody threw the offer at me and said, hey, come in here and get beat up. I don't know about those dives. I don't know how you dive knowing that the person's going to move. Like, I don't know how it's done. I know a lot about wrestling. I know how things are done. I don't know how that one's done. And maybe it's not done. It's just you dive into the floor and just tuck and roll, stupid.
Yeah. Bailey just went for it and hit that floor hard. We got a nice little thump bump from that one. And then just, I guess, more positive stuff on this one. Bailey really ramping up that heel, hitting all the buttons on the heel machine here. Gets 2 pin attempts on Bianca Belair, and on both of them she used the ropes for leverage. And then we sprinkle in a ref who actually has a little authority, threatening to disqualify Bailey here. Tells her that's twice you use the ropes for leverage. You do that shit again, you're done. You're out of here. we're so used to you and I watching AEW every week. The refs are just literal corpses who just stand there and who can count to three if they're lucky.
Yeah, if they know how to count. Again, I thought this match, I stick with it. This match was a diamond that shined real bright here on this whole card from top to bottom. So I was very happy that it was in there and it was good. My youngest daughter was watching it with me, and she was very impressed by Bianca Belair's ponytail and how long it was, and that she used it for a weapon. So the kids, I take these little things that my kids will say and go, all right, well, something's working for that character, right? It caught a 5-year-old's attention to mention it and notice it. So interesting little facts there. But again, I love this match from top to bottom, and I don't think there was too much to stink on it about.
No, the just one little thing to stink on it about is the fact that Bianca Belair cheated to win. It wasn't a huge cheat, but when she pinned Bayley to retain her title, she did use that ponytail to get extra leverage, if you will, on Bayley's leg. So having a babyface cheat to win just kind of muddies the water a little bit. Why is your babyface cheating when it's not necessary?
Yeah, that could be. WWE could be working just to have her have a little bit attitude, to add to that list of ests, her ESTs.
Yeah.
But, it also becomes that it's part of her, it's a part of her per person, right? It's just a part of that. So is she cheating? Is it an outside object? WWE's been known to play chess when people are looking at checkers, as you like to state, Eric, that, they could be leading up to something about a hair match leading into the near future. A hair versus hair match of some kind, or so. You never know what could be building, as they might tie that in more and more and more, and then lead that into some type of match, or it was just a coincidence and some bullshit. I don't know.
Yeah, it is what it is. But Bayley, we reported on her being newly single a couple weeks ago. I think Bayley got a little crush on Pat McAfee here. She was talking to him a lot throughout this match. A lot of eye contact with our commentator, Pat McAfee. A lot of chit chat and banter going on between them two. I think Bayley's got a little crush.
Now, on the Pat McAfee tip, he needs to be. Well, I know he's on commentary for SmackDown all the time now, as of the last several weeks, and he's going to be there now as a commentator. But he needed to be commentating this entire pay-per-view. He portrays something that you can connect to as a fan. He portrays that fan, because he still is a fan, living a dream, calling a wrestling match. So if you watch in the back, you could see him jump up and call things from his feet. Boom, he's out of his seat, his hands are on his head, and he's going, I can't believe this is happening. And then he's back down in his seat, and he's getting into the groove. Michael Cole's leading him through it. You can tell Michael Cole's still the boss of this thing, right? But Pat was selling it and acting. He was the fan, but a very professional fan, and the energy was there from that. He didn't have to fake that. Now, that new guy they added on Raw, he just pretends like he's excited, that he knows what's happening, because I don't think he knows what he's doing.
Is he the new guy on Raw? I haven't watched him. Is he better or worse than our boy Excrement over in AEW?
Excrement loves wrestling. It was the guy that commentated the Raw matches, the middle guy. If you were listening on during the WWE Backlash, there was the middle guy in the Raw matches. It just feels all so forced to me. But when you pop on Raw, you notice it a little more than he did in this pay-per-view this week. But Pat McAfee needs to be on more WWE programming, is all I have to say.
I think he just needs a little more polish. I got the fan vibe the same way you did, but I almost took it as he's doing commentary. I understand that they're supposed to go with it, like this is real conflict, and that's what we want. We want to make the audience believe it, but I almost took it from McAfee like the point of view of a 10-year-old. Like, oh my God, like this is happening, this is happening, and I don't know. I didn't really get a professional commentator vibe from him, which is okay because He's only been commentating for WWE for a couple weeks.
Yeah. Anyways, nonetheless, I liked it, and I think he should do more. I think I just like Pat McAfee, so really he could be, the drizzling shits. But if you like somebody, you can see through that and go, "Hey, what the hell? I like that guy. He's a great dude." And that's kind of where I stand on him. He's impressed me since I've got to know him more. Then we move on. So we've got Bianca Belair winning with her hair over Bayley. All that.
Yeah, retaining her championship.
All that, and then we do. Is there any backstage segments? I am terrible, Eric, for remembering the backstage segments. Do we have anything before we lead into this next match?
Not anything worth anything. Just MVP in the back cutting a promo and basically calling Braun Strowman stupid, which we're all aboard that train.
Yeah, woo woo. Okay, here we go. So we got Bobby Lashley taking on Braun Strowman and Drew McIntyre. Now, I did get a text message during the pay-per-view from our friend Andy, that we spoke about earlier, that says, "Damn it, they used the dive where Drew McIntyre caught his dick piece, in quotes, on the ropes." So Andy clearly has been listening to the show on a regular basis. Thank you for downloading the podcast, Andy, and catching Eric's quote. That would be a quote of the year. Drew McIntyre catching his dick piece on the ropes in his Suicida dive.
Yeah, they kind of used camera tricks and editing to kind of hide the fact that his penis hooked on the top rope like Captain Hook to an alligator jaw, and I guess it was a good looking dive. They absolutely had to use it for a vignette, a little catch up piece, and they did the best they can. God bless them. But you didn't see the dick flopping once it hit that top rope.
And just all of a sudden my phone goes off and I go reading it. Damn it! They used him catching his dick piece in the vignette. I about died laughing and then continued to watch this. Now this I thought was I texted him back and I said, the main event coming up, that seems so quick already. And he said, no, there's still the Roman Reigns and Cesaro match. And then I said, oh, because I cared so little about that match, I like Cesaro, I just completely forgot about it and thought we were already there to the main event. But anyways, Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, triple threat match. What did you think of this, Eric? I had a few things to speak about, but we'll continue. We'll let you lead us through it. You do such a damn good job of leading the dance.
It was okay. I mean, we have another triple threat, so you're expecting people to be tagging in, so to speak, with, oopsie, I fell off the ring apron and I'm injured for 10 minutes. But Braun Strowman takes this thing 0 to 10 immediately, attacking both opponents at the get-go. And we get a little short-lived alliance between Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre, and they hit a double vertical suplex on Braun Strowman. And I think that's the first time that big motherfucker has been put up in a vertical suplex and held at a 90-degree angle for like 5 or 6 seconds before it dropped down. I thought that was pretty impressive. It took 2 guys to do it, but that looked pretty sick.
Yeah, I like the way that the story went with this alliance too, where Drew was a little not excited to join the alliance of Bobby Lashley, but he knew that it had to be done to help, slow the big man down of Braun Strowman. So Drew sold that and told that story very well with just facial features and body movements. They could tell that he did not want to help Bobby Lashley by any means at all. So I like that little piece of the story, a little bit of layer to it.
Yeah, that's where you know that Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre are true professionals. They can keep a story moving without even laying a hand on anybody. These two were just non-verbally communicating, and you got the tension, you got the hesitance, you knew how this story was being portrayed. Braun Strowman, on the other hand, is just a fucking goof. I don't feel he had any place in this match, because anybody who's watched wrestling for any extended amount of time, who's seen the type of people who are champions, who have seen their charisma, and what it takes to carry a WWE championship belt, you know Braun Strowman just don't have it. If he ever gets that belt, he's either going to be a transitional champion, um, or he's just going to be a big goofy monster who's going to get slayed by the next big baby face.
Which is still a transitional champion at the end of the day.
Right. Has he been WWE champion before?
You know what? That is a damn good question. I can use the old internet while it's in front of me here. I don't. Maybe he held it for a second. I want to say he held it for a second.
But either way, even if he did hold it, it just accentuates my point that it wasn't memorable. Nobody, there wasn't a Braun Strowman era that we all reminisce on. You know, um, we we get Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre end up on the outside of the ring, and they're brawling, and they finally come together because we got another catch me spot coming. Braun Strowman's big ass, 350-pound ass, flies off of the ring apron to cannonball both Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre. And this dumb son of a bitch is pointing his head straight at the floor when he jumps off the ring apron. Like, God forbid Lashley and McIntyre here don't get their spots mixed up and move out of the way or whatever, because Braun Strowman would have just drilled his fat ass head right into the ground.
So we can rewind back for a half a second. If we both sit back and remember now, WrestleMania 36, he won the championship. Remember, he won that Universal Championship for like a couple days.
Oh, yeah. That was his only reign? That little short-lived boy?
Besides his tag team and intercontinental things like that. But yeah, he won it for that WrestleMania 36. He held that title for a little bit. So there's that. But yes, we both forgot about it, so that shows how memorable it was. Now, back to that dive, I texted Andy and stated, that is about the only catch me spot that I deem worthy of being on TV. You know how much we always bullshit and tear apart these catch me spots. When Braun, you're like, that dude is huge to run and jump. Like, somebody's got to help catch him. There's no question, or he's got to really hit some people.
Right.
And I go, does he forget that he's not a luchador? And it was pretty impressive. It was pretty cool. I thought, it was a little dangerous maybe, but hey, what the hell? I'm being entertained.
Yeah, it was entertaining for sure, and it looked good. Both Lashley and McIntyre were in the right spot at the right time, so it worked. Braun got taken out of commission for a little while, and we end up with Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley up at the top of the ramp fighting, which results in Drew McIntyre throwing Bobby Lashley through one of the LED boards. We get our special effects sparks and shocks going off everywhere. And I believe it's McAfee at this point. Reminds us that last time this happened to Bobby Lashley, he was out of commission for a while. So I guess it turns out that getting electrocuted is just another day in the office for old Bobby Lashley.
And you can't be mad at Pat for making these statements, because Vince or Triple H or Stephanie, somebody's in his ear, right? Saying, we need this. This is, we're telling the story. If you're not telling it, they're telling you how to tell it. It's a group effort here. But by saying that to me, you're going, hey, guess what's going to happen? You're pre-telling the future a little bit. You're going, last time this happened, you're like, okay, so now you've drawn attention to this for some reason. He already went through a board where sparks flew, and he was supposedly going to be hurt. And then you go, last time this happened, he was out of commission for a while. Well, he is the champion, so I don't foresee him being out of commission for a while. So, when's he going to sneak back in and surprise us? That's all you're waiting for.
Right. And it's just pointing out that just like, I don't know, that this gimmick's been done before. How often are we going to be electrocuting our performers here? But let's see here. So Strowman ends up interrupting this whole ordeal here once Bobby Lashley is being electrified, and brawls back into the ring with Drew McIntyre. And Drew McIntyre that motherfucker is strong. Braun Strowman's a big motherfucker, and this Michinoku driver that Drew McIntyre pulls on Braun Strowman was just visually gorgeous.
It
That thing looked great.
it looked like Michinoku was giving that Michinoku driver himself back in 1999. Like, it just looked like two guys that should have been doing it, and they're not. They're not the guys that you
Right.
think should be doing those moves. You're not the guy that you should see doing a cannonball dive onto people in a catch me spot. And this is not the guys to be giving and receiving Michinoku drivers. But they were flying and moving like luchadors in a sense, or light heavyweights, and it was impressive. They made it look natural. It didn't look. It just was like, wow, you were able to do that and do it right, manhandling Braun Strowman.
Right. You do not expect in any universe that somebody could do a clean Michinoku driver on Braun Strowman. But old Drew McIntyre pulled it off. We end up back on the outside of the ring here. Drew stops the old Strowman choo-choo train dead in its tracks, and we get an over-the-head suplex. McIntyre at this point attempts to give Braun Strowman a Claymore kick, ends up getting powerbombed through the announce table for his trouble. And this was a little sketchy too. From where Strowman was standing, I'm assuming this powerbomb was supposed to be done at a safe angle where, you had your opponent, Drew McIntyre, taking the bump on the length of the announce table. But Braun Strowman had his angle off just a little bit, smashes Drew McIntyre down onto the table. The table collapses, and Drew McIntyre ends up taking a bump on the back of his head right on the floor on the other side of the table. His legs end up behind his head, and at this point, with his legs behind his head, I'd say he looks a little like Penelope Ford in the back seat of a four-door 1994 Ford Escort Sport, Brian. I wrote that myself.
I wrote that myself. Now, as you're speaking of all this, and I was watching this, it's all coming back now. I'm thinking, was this set up as a no disqualification match? It's not listed here as where I'm, watching, going over the match card. I don't remember any announcements about it, but these guys were outside of the ring more often than not, for longer than they should have been, doing things that should get you disqualified. And none of that
The
happened.
announcers did mention it
Okay.
1 or 2 minutes into the match.
That
They
it
were
was
like, oh, this is a no disqualification, blah, blah, blah match. So
It's easy to miss when they don't make it a thing and they don't call it that to lead off the match, but I was just curious about that. Anyways, we continue on. This match was good for big guys. It was and they did a decent job of the the Russian roulette style of who's going to fight who and which two guys are going to fight and which one's taking the rest break.
yeah, it seemed a lot more natural than our Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, Asuka match, where guys were taking bumps that would legitimately put them out of commission for a little bit, such as getting electrocuted. But the action makes its way back into the ring. Don't think Drew McIntyre has a concussion because he still performed pretty good from here. He ends up hitting his Claymore on Braun Strowman, and then that's when old Electric Bobby returns back to the ring, gets rid of Drew McIntyre, outside to go there, Drew, and spears Braun Strowman, gets the pin, 1, 2, 3. Bobby Lashley retains.
Now, this is the funny part that is bound to happen, and they're going to mess up with here in WWE, is now they don't have to sneak, right? So Bobby Lashley in a live audience to do this spot, it has to be fast, quick, and explosive, so people in the audience are going, where did he come from? When did that happen, right?
Right.
All we're doing now, though, is fooling the camera. So that means all Bobby Lashley has to do is watch the match from the X on the runway where the cameras aren't going to hit to him, and then when MVP points at him or whoever, when the producer says go, he can run in and go. But in reality, so what I'm saying is where this is bound to happen and bound to hurt them is a camera's going to go wide. Somebody's going to pan to the wrong camera. The guy in the back in the truck is going to hit the wrong camera and go hot to it, and Bobby's just going to be standing there, use him for example, picking his nose, waiting to go out on TV when it was supposed to be a big giant surprise that, where did he come from?
Kind of like what happened in AEW on the Party Hardy compound match, where you just saw the two dickheads who were about to do a run-in, just standing next to a tree, leaning back and watching the match. And then a minute later, there's a cut scene to them running through the woods to the ring. Something like that
right. And
is going to happen if these guys get too used to these non-audience arenas.
Yeah, and that sucks even more because that was just bad editing. You could have just easily just edited them out and cut and chopped and cropped the video. But, yeah, somebody's going to cut to something live, and it'll just be them standing there in the wrong spot waiting, and it's going to be great. But I think that's going to happen. But, nonetheless, it surprised the TV. It worked for me. It went over good, and Bobby Lashley, of course, retains because, well, it just makes sense.
Exactly, Brian. Couldn't have said it better myself. And then we get our package to hype us up for this Cesaro Reigns match, and then the conflict with the Usos mixed all in. And I don't watch WWE television, their regular shows, Raws and SmackDown, on a regular basis. So this package was necessary for me, and it did a good job pulling me in and getting me interested and seeing Cesaro and Roman Reigns going at it. Now, I've stated before, you and I have been fans of old Claudio since way back in the Indies days when he was touring around with Chris Hero. And so we know Cesaro, we know his personality, and then we've kept an eye on him through WWE. And I think you and I would say it's not a big surprise that we know he's not going to be carrying the WWE Championship at this point, and he sure as hell isn't pulling it off Vince's golden boy, Roman Reigns, at this point. So the match goes in being a little predictable, but you're still hyped to see the conflict between these two, and you know it's going to be a damn good match.
Yes, your only fear is that they could potentially get the old Barry, right? Where Cesaro just gets completely annihilated, looks like a silly goose, and none of it makes sense. That's not so much the case in this match, but that's a little fear in the back of your head when you're going into that. Do I see Cesaro winning? Did I see Cesaro winning this match? No. Did I think that it would have been cool? Yes. Would it have fit the storyline? Maybe not for the long term, but for the short term, sure, it could have worked because he could have, Roman Reigns, it could have been done through interference and even a little bit or whatever, but it could have been done okay where everybody still came out good. But all we did not want to see is Cesaro get killed. I think he can be the guy. I just didn't know if it was going to be yet. This is a stepping stone to getting there to those real pay-per-view main events. Unfortunately, this was not a real pay-per-view. Not because there was no fans there. Backlash there could have been 25,000 fans there at an arena in, Columbus, Ohio. I still would have went, Cesaro's not winning. It's not happening here. Now, but so we'll see when it's going to happen and when they can put him over. And hopefully he can start to be in this scene a little more, and then that's when you're going to get your shot.
Right, precisely. And as you stated before, the fear is always there that someone that you like to watch a lot, somebody you're a genuine fan of, the fear is always there that they're not going to win the match, so you're going to see him get buried. And this match was to the contrary, 100%. Roman Reigns makes Cesaro look fantastic this entire match. The first part of the match, Reigns is, the way he works it, he's letting Cesaro out-wrestle him, outperform him the entire time. Roman just kind of keeps getting lucky and getting these little breaks where he can stop Cesaro's momentum. So from the get-go, Cesaro just looks fantastic, and that continues throughout the rest of the match. One thing I was very pleased with in this, especially, well, I would say for the first 90% of this match, is that when Cesaro is in control, when he's the one leading Reigns, so to speak, the pace of this match is fantastic. I was really afraid we were going to get that molasses, methodical Roman Reigns pace to a match where you're sitting on the couch just dozing off because Roman Reigns just wants to slink around and talk to himself for 15 minutes. But he kind of let Cesaro control the majority of this match, and we stayed on a great pace.
100% agreed. That was the other fear, is that this thing was going to be so boring that I didn't really care about it. Now, I did doze off, but it was getting late, and I was tired, so leave me alone. But I caught up on it. The match had a pace that was watchable and entertaining enough to stay with. It wasn't that stalking Cesaro burying a guy. I couldn't tell you who he wrestled last, but I remember him. Oh, when he was doing that when he was fighting the Usos all the time, trying to get him, and it was just, I'm the head of the table. And then it's like, come on. If you're so good, why is this match taking 9 minutes then? Just get in there and murder him, bury him, and walk out in 3 seconds. But that wasn't this, and Cesaro looked great and through the whole thing, and then even looked great at the end. No matter what, no matter how it ended, everybody came out a winner on this one.
Right. And to touch on your previous statement here, that just kind of reminds me, WWE sure knows how to draw out a freaking storyline, because when you were talking about Roman Reigns beefing with the Usos, that shit was going on since last Hell in the Cell. That's when he started beefing with Jey Uso and trying to force him to admit that Roman was the head of the table. So this shit's been going on for damn near a year.
Right. Well, they've moved Hell in the Cell now, so it got bumped up. So it's been pushing probably 8 to 9 months. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
as opposed to AEW, it just would have been a 2-week beef, and it'd been like, oh, okay, you're the head of the table. You want to fight Darby Allin now?
Oh, you're the head of the table. They would have had it take place on AEW Evolution on YouTube on Wednesday afternoons. It's not even archived. You can't even. It's just you can watch it live and live only. But yeah, I thought this match was good, and I didn't. It was It was Roman Reigns, so I didn't really care. I'm not the biggest Roman Reigns fan. I'm a Cesaro guy. If you were to pick between these two, I didn't have faith that my man would win, as I stated before. But I was watching it to see how he handled the moment in the spotlight. And I thought he handled it great. That's where I'm at with this match.
I thought he did well. And a lot of that had to do with his dancing partner. Roman Reigns knows how to keep him looking good. Roman Reigns knows how to get sympathy for his babyface and to get heat doing it, working Cesaro's right arm the entire match. And Cesaro's arm showing damage, legit damage, scrapes and cuts and whatnot. And Cesaro sold the shit out of that right arm the entire match. So just that one body part got so much heat on Roman and got so much sympathy for Cesaro. These two just know how to work.
Yeah, there was no question. They gelled well together. Whether I'm a Roman Reigns fan or not, that doesn't mean that I don't have respect for him in the ring. He can do some stuff. Now, he's about as good on his moveset as we joked about earlier in the show with Kevin Nash on having the 5 moves of doom, right? Where you're going, he's got his Superman punch, his spear, and then, he's damn near got his hair flipped too, his big, ooh, ah, and where he hypes himself up, and then
shark bait, ooh, ah, ah.
In the drive-by, and that's about it, right? So, but he does know what to do in there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And we do get a really clean spot with Cesaro doing that over-the-top rope superplex on Roman Reigns, where Cesaro stands on the bottom or second rope there and uses his own strength. I'm sure Oos helped out a little bit in this one here, but just pulls him up, superplexes him over that top rope, and it's just, that's Cesaro, man. That strength is all there, and it's clean. And I love his strength spots just because he's so lean. It If Braun Strowman did the same spot, you'd be like, yeah, whatever. He's a fucking big dumb ox. But when you see a lean Cesaro doing something that requires that much strength, it's 10 times more impressive.
100%. That he does not necessarily portray and look like that giant, strong man. And, so he doesn't have that huge look where it's a Mark Henry or a Braun Strowman or whoever else, where you're going, well, yeah, you can put your weight into it and you can manipulate and move these objects, where he doesn't have the body weight to do it, and he can still pick these guys up and manhandle them enough that it looks amazing.
Yeah, and the commentators play it up too. I think it was 2 or 3 times they said, pound for pound, Cesaro is the strongest man in WWE. And I don't think they're lying. We've seen them do that upside down pancake belly flop thing on I think he did it to the Big Show one time. Just ginormous guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd love to see Cesaro stick around in that top tier of guys for a while, to where it will seem logical for him to take on the role as champion, and not for a day or two just to drop it on Raw.
Agreed. And then how's this match? Where are we at on the actual match itself? We got to be close to this wrap, like where the finish comes into this thing.
We are pretty much after this superplex. You can just feel the match winding down. It's just there. We're coming to a close. Roman Reigns, and this is where the Roman Reigns pace takes over. We've went from nice, steady, action-filled pace with Cesaro in control. Now it's Roman time. We're slowing down the molasses. Roman Reigns gets a guillotine choke. Cesaro picks him up and just absolutely slams the shit out of him. Another clean-looking strength spot from Cesaro. Cesaro ends up getting a sharpshooter on Roman Reigns and still selling that right arm. He has to tweak it with his left arm. Looks like Reigns is going to escape. Cesaro turns it into a crossface, still selling the arm, so Roman Reigns escapes. Roman Reigns powerbomb for a 2 count, and then it's guillotine time again. Roman Reigns gets another guillotine in, and at this, we're moving at a snail's pace at this point. Roman Reigns gets a guillotine. Cesaro powers out of that one too. Roman Reigns gets the third guillotine of this 10-minute interlude here. A third guillotine. Cesaro almost breaks out of that one, but Roman Reigns holds on to this particular guillotine until Cesaro goes limp, so to speak. There didn't really seem to be any clear signs that this match was over, but the ref calls for the bell, and it's a wrap on that.
Yeah,
Roman Reigns retains.
They went with the MMA style finish on this, where he necessarily didn't tap out. Nobody threw in the towel. It was that he was not defending himself and he wasn't answering to the ref. So you could hear the ref hollering, Cesaro, you got to give me something type stuff. And he didn't move, and that's when the ref called it. It was an interesting end. I like the fact that they did give Cesaro all the power to get out of these moves and show that he was fighting and fighting and fighting. And that's where I state that everybody came out a winner in this. Roman Reigns was able to win, obviously, and retain, but Cesaro was able to prove that he, can take a beating and stay in the matches, and that for his character is going to be great. It's going to be very, very good to build on, that he can claim that he never lost, he never tapped, he powered out of it, he can get out of chokeholds, that you got to kill, there's more to me than this. So he's left looking like $1 million even when losing, that they gave him those spots to power out of those moves, and then he did it so well.
Cesaro, even taking the L, came out of this thing looking like $1 million. And then the afterbirth happens, Brian.
Cue the afterbirth.
We could have just left it as is, because this afterbirth did nothing. Nothing that progresses the story any. I guess I'll just go right into it. Jey Uso comes out to celebrate with his cousin here, Roman, and basically asks Roman Reigns permission if he can beat up Cesaro. So it's like, okay, so I guess the goal of this thing is solidifying Jey Uso's allegiance to Roman Reigns and just getting heat on Jey Uso. So Jey Uso beats up the beaten and battered Cesaro here. Then we hear, burn it down. And Seth Rollins comes down to the ramp, gets eye to eye with Roman Reigns here. And I guess the point of this thing was you're thinking Seth Rollins is going to attack Roman Reigns, but he makes a left turn here and just beats the living shit out of Cesaro, brings him out of the ring, beats him with a chair, puts his chair on Cesaro's injured arm, slams it into a ring post, curb stomps old Cesaro here. A solid 5-minute beatdown from Seth Rollins. Not one person comes out to help Cesaro. Not one friend in the background. They're just going to let him take a beatdown from 3 separate people. Not a peep.
Not a peep. Not his good old friend Sheamus that they were tag team partners with for a while. Nothing. Not a guy. But we do have to admit, Seth Rollins' suit was looking pretty fresh. That was a crisp, clean, the paint spill looking thing going on with the jacket into the pants there. That was pretty dope looking. But nonetheless, this just solidifies and moves on that we are going to probably now see the Cesaro-Seth Rollins program that's going to happen after this, following through this. So we will keep an eye on that. And I'm sure with the next pay-per-views, that'll be one of the matches. Seth Rollins taking on Cesaro.
See, what worries me about that is, just a quick question since I don't watch the regular shows. Did that original feud never conclude? I thought that kind of wrapped up at WrestleMania when Cesaro beat Seth Rollins.
Yeah, but Seth is just, that was like the gimmick, right? Seth came back out, and as you were saying, you can't just walk, you're just not going to move on from me. We're not done yet. So it's kind of like a jealous ex type thing where Seth, he got beat, and then that by beating Seth, he moved on to that title championship spots where Seth didn't get it now. So Seth's like, he's the jealous kid that got left behind. Is kind of the spot they're playing with. That's the storyline that I'm taking from it. That's what I'm making sense out of it. And it can happen. Being in the picture with Seth Rollins is always good too, because Seth could be the champion at any minute.
Yeah, Seth has lost a little bit of his luster over the past year or so, but he still got that status. It's not quite Roman Reigns status, but Seth Rollins does carry some weight to him. So if Cesaro can at least stay in a feud with him for a while and still stick around that top tier and tease the championship every now and again, I think we could see a Cesaro championship run in the next year or so, I would say.
Oh, yeah. At least a small one. At least something. Even if it's just from short pay-per-view to short pay-per-view to the next month, that'd be fine with me. As long as it's not the next night on Raw or something like that. Maybe he gets a good spot at Money in the Bank now. Maybe he's building up to be a contender for that and then, figure that out. So that'd be pretty cool. Any last thoughts on this before we wrap it up tonight?
No, not really. It pretty much was what it was. We saw a couple shit matches. We saw a couple good matches. I would say this pay-per-view was I guess my thumb would be slightly down on this one.
I was gonna say
the bad outweighed the good.
If you were to say 1 to 10, like I would be in like that 4 or 5, like
4.
It could be. I could even just call it 5. It just kind of existed. It was very just right there and happened, and I didn't walk away from it going, "Oh my God, I can't wait for what's gonna happen from Monday night." On Monday night with this pay-per-view that just ended, but it didn't leave me completely disgusted. A few spots. We move on.
And I guess another sense of disappointment was all the title matches we had on this show. The only title change was a title nobody really cared about so much,
And that they had to put on them after they're making the stink that it was going to be the first time ever. So it was,
right.
once
it
that
goes from
started.
the Dirty Dogs, which is just kind of a hodgepodge team anyway, with Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler, and they put it on a guy who's, I mean, to be frank, over the hill, Rey Mysterio, and his son, who's as green as frog shit. So the title really meant nothing, and then every other title just stayed with its owner. So there was no real surprises that anyone would give a shit about in this pay-per-view.
Right. 100%. I believe that wraps up our WWE Backlash to WrestleMania. I'm interested to see what other pay-per-views they use the WrestleMania branding in. So we're going to see that in Money in the Bank, or if we're going to see that in Royal Rumble or Fastlane, something along that WrestleMania season. I think anything else further out from that, you're going to start to get weird. SummerSlam, like that wouldn't make any sense. You know, the weird
WrestleMania, Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, like that's not going to make any sense to me. I think from Royal Rumble until Backlash, and then it's about a wrap, I would say. You can start to.
I would assume so, because that covers WrestleMania season.
Yeah, that's about it. So, but in that was when we wrap up WWE's Backlash to WrestleMania. We shall see you all next week. Make sure you go on to all the social media outlets and join us over there. KayFabe Smark on all of that. KayFabe Smark is us. That is the podcast. That is what we're doing. It has been one solid year to the date. So thank you guys. Happy birthday. And we will see you guys next week, and we'll continue on for year number 2. Eric Todd, what do you have for us before we get out of Dodge?
Really not much. Just 1 year, we made it, and year 2, here we come. We're kicking down doors. Going to be the podcast Wrestling Whores, and other than that, hooty hoo, we out the gate.